would that have been the main concern, obviously, for the businesses and customers you were working with, security? Because they're out of that traditional compound of their office and they're in a virtual workplace. Was that and you can see during COVID-19, it's a real great opportunity for cyber attackers to sort of capitalize on this vulnerability. So was that one of the main sort of pain points that customers were coming to you with to try and help resolve?
Exactly. So if you think about Citrix in the context of security, the way we enable users to access their virtual machines and their applications that are secured and hosted in their data center using our virtualization technology, you're basically taking the corporate strict security policies to the edge of the user so that they can access their data and their applications from the resources and the security policies of their corporate network. We're just extending it to the edge, to the user. So that enabled us to tick that very important box for organization, that Citrix is a platform that enables them to move that to the edge of the home while maintaining the optimum security. Now, and the reason why we do that is because we have been talking about this for the last probably 3 years, is that Citrix, deploys their technologies based on a secure digital perimeter, which basically talks about apps and data hosted in data centers, leveraging cloud securely, managed for optimum application delivery using our security line of products around our load balancing technology and web application firewall, with our own security policies, obviously, that secure access to applications and data protection. So that's kind of the core of what we do, and that's what we've been actually demonstrating. But again, for me, I'll tell you, as we address security as Citrix, 2 other things came in quite importantly, is monitoring. So from my perspective today, a lot of customers now who have moved users to work from home, they don't really have any more a mechanism to know, are these users being productive? Are they signing on time? Are they really doing what they do? And of course, there's a human factor there. So analytics around productivity, performance, and security becomes something that organizations needed in order for them to proactively monitor end user experience, resources, network devices, bandwidth consumption. They also wanted to make sure that they're also managing the productivity of those users, given that they're working from home. So that was another, I would say, aspect that they really wanted to really understand, and how these things can integrate together. And then the other area, which I think was also quite important, and we've seen, companies like Microsoft, LogMeIn, be very rapid to provide organizations access, and Zoom, is unified communication. Because one of the most common challenges of working remotely is the inability to meet colleagues, face to face. So from our perspective, there were many collaboration tools available in the market, but how do you allow your users to actually use those tools without compromising security? Because the last thing you would want is to have a ghost IT, if you will, being built in parallel to your corporate IT, and you're creating, vulnerability. So what we've done to address security monitoring and unified communication is we've enabled, obviously, our analytics services to be available to customers to manage their Citrix infrastructure, that is actually, quarantining, if you will, or containerizing those unified communications, whether it's Zoom, Skype, Teams, LogMeIn, into our virtual environment, which is already secured, and enabling those specific access to users from anywhere that they want to access those applications.
Yeah, so it's like an extra layer of security.
It's actually the perimeter that allowed us to actually, containerize, if you will, all the tools, the collaborative tools that organizations and enterprises required for them to really, establish a very strong work from home policy. Obviously underpinned by initially the fear of going to cloud irrationally, but when organizations started understanding that, Microsoft, for example, having their local data center here, a lot of, security companies are providing cloud security measures. You have, companies like Citrix, for example, who is depending a lot Microsoft Azure and Microsoft in general to go and support organizations to talk about work from home securely with proactive monitoring, providing them a high quality of service of unified communications using a robust, resilient cloud service with Microsoft. That to us was the kind of offering that we've gone into organizations now in our fix and preparation phase to kind of make this a mainstream way of them looking at their business and going about their employees' productivity and way of working.
Just on relation to productivity, because it brings me on to my next question. Obviously, it's been a discussion for the last few years in tech and IT about working from home, and we're always connected and being able to work from everywhere. And obviously now that's just highlighted COVID-19. You're doing your job effectively. I'd like to think I'm doing my job effectively. So do you think there's going to be a massive paradigm shift in terms of there's going to be more autonomy? That old structure of coming in at 8 o'clock and leaving at 6. They're not really monitoring your performance, but because you're in at 8 and you leave at 6, they automatically think, oh, he's been here for 10 hours. But are they actually being productive? So do you think there's going to be a real paradigm shift in terms of working remotely, being more flexible? What's your view on that? I'd be interested in seeing as Citrix is a sort of real leader in terms of workspace.
Look, I mean, we've been part of a lot of surveys and research, and there's this one specific study that Census Wide did on our behalf, where we surveyed more than 3,700 IT leaders across 7 countries. We found that due to COVID-19, 72% of global IT decision makers are now accelerating their digital transformation plans, right? However, from our perspective, 75% of IT leaders actually told us that their employees do not want to return back to the office as they knew it. They want to have that particular flexibility. And it seems like, the flexible hour working that this work from home provides actually is now being accelerated because the option of working from home now becomes at the top of this flexible working. Now, let me take you back a little bit to Q3 or Q4, actually, to 2019, around JITEX time, where there was this whole, I would say, media frenzy around 4-day weeks and how Japan was looking at all of that and all of this. If you take that into consideration of how organizations, countries, economies were saying that 4-hour week will provide more productivity, right?
Yeah.
Think about that as being the instigator. Now fast forward into the pandemic where people were forced to work from home, and you hear me, and I've heard that from many of my counterparts, many from our peers, many from our customers, you lost me, that they've worked the hardest in the way that they react to their partners, customers, and employees. Then definitely that shift in mindset that flexible hours are required, number one. Number two, the mindset for many local, international, and global organizations will provide that flexibility. You can look at the government today, for example, of the UAE, even though they've launched that 50% of government will be working now until the end of, well, mid of June, and then from June onwards 100% capacity. They didn't force people to be working from home. They provided that flexibility that if they opt to work from home, they can, as long as it's within the means of the outcome base. So we're moving from this traditional way of wanting to see people just come to the office and to empowering users with flexible hours and getting them to actually work based on outcome based. And you've seen organizations like Salesforce and Twitter and Facebook kind of taking the lead, and we as Citrix today, even though all the governments around us have eased up restrictions, we still have our work from home policy in place. So I think if you look at it as well, from that same survey I mentioned, 71% of the survey respondents believe that employees can collaborate just as effectively through technology as they can do face to face. And from their perspective, people found working from home is easier because it's on their own pace, they're responsible, it just really brought in a different human factor to it. So I hope that gives you an answer to your question, but I do believe the shift, and I do believe there are good, you know, proof points that the new norm will drive higher productivity, and we have
Yeah.
obviously the technology to enable that.